Okay, so in the previous video we went over this, the deployment idle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on getting him to attack. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all his animation basically from frame 0 on. So we're leaving frame 0 alone. And we're going to delete all this animation out. All right, and what I like to do is I like to get my timeline, get it down to about 20 frames for an attack, just because I can see the stuff happening like lightning quick. Okay. Now my formulas for doing animation basically is deriving off of a Street Fighter formula. So they basically have for a common line for their characters is they'll land a jab on the 5th frame, the 6th frame, and the 7th frame. Balrog is the exception. He'll land his jab on frame 2. So what I'll do is I'm just going to extend this out to frame 5, and we're going to land the punch. So we're going to extend his fist all the way out, rotate his fist for a boxer's straight. Okay. We also have to go to the top view, and we have to make sure that his fist is on the grid. And what I like to do at this point too, let's go ahead and rotate this out. We want his knuckle and his middle finger knuckle and his pointer finger knuckle right here on the grid. This is called Seiken in Japanese. So we're just gonna lock the hand down. We're gonna open this up, and we're gonna set a slide key on the hand. All right, and then what it'll do is when we just adjust the pose and stuff, because it'll have to happen, it'll just keep his hand on the grid. It just takes the edge out of the work a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and pull that spine. All right, pull it forward. And we're also going to duck him down a little bit. So now we can just focus on pulling his hand straight. Okay, and then also what we're going to do is we're going to take his clavicle, page up. All right, we got to make the clavicle straight. So now we can extend his hand out some more. All right. We need to tuck his chin into his shoulder. And a real professional boxer is going to have his hand right up against his face. This is rotated out a little bit, something like this. We can have this hand close to his eye over here. Okay, you don't necessarily want to be right up against it because you don't know what his hair is going to be like, right? But you can at least get the gist. You're going to have to go back and tweak it anyways. So this is good technique. His elbow is straight down. Okay, his hand is straight out. His head is tucked. You can angle this down a little bit more, I think. It'll be okay. And the next thing that has to do is we have to move his foot forward some more. That's very important. So I'm actually going to unlock his hand right now. So I know I'm going to move his root bone in a moment. So let's unlock his hand. Okay, so we're going to move his foot. So let's lock his foot down and move this straight like that. And move this square. We want to try to have as much 90-degree bend in his legs as possible. And that's where all your power comes from, is in your legs. Okay. He's pushing off the back foot. Make his foot a little flatter. See how we're getting that power in there. We'll rotate his pelvis forward a little bit more. Lift up his fist. Push that out. Now I like to bring it back just a hair. Slight elbow bend. Just slight. Only slight, because you can add some follow through. That looks pretty cool. Get that elbow out. Turn this. That's a corkscrew. We're not going to corkscrew it. We can do that in the follow through. All right, so I think that's pretty good. We'll open his pelvis up, drop it down, or pull it up this way. There we go. And check his spine. His spine should be twisting into the punch slightly. All right. And now we're going to hit play. So we went from here to here. So now how do we make this look more powerful? We have to rear it back. So what most animators have to deal with is stretch and squash, right? So right here is the extended stretch pose, or the contact pose. This is the idle pose. And so now over here, we're going to have to open his chest up and pull it back. But I also know that my first frame is going to be my last frame. So let's just go ahead and copy that over to like frame 12. Ooh, no, let's do frame 15. I'm going to demonstrate something else in a minute. Take off trajectories. Okay, let's do frame 2. Let's rear his, take his spine. Hopefully we have the spine selection set working. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and copy the original spine, and I'm going to rear this back. I'm going to open his chest up. I'm also going to copy frame 0. I'm going to pull this back like this. I'm going to rotate. Oops, wrong way. Rotate forward. Where's his clavicle? We got to lift up his clavicle. Lift it up. Push it back. And open his chest up. Now this is Hollywood, okay? Like I could like open it like way back here, but I'm not going to. But I am going to tip his elbow in. All right, and I'm going to bring his fist still close to his face over here. I'm going to have him look this way, like this, and tip his head that way, so it'll look a little bit more exaggerated. We're going to stand him up a little bit. See that? So now we can see some contrast between this frame and that frame. See that? Bam, 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 bam. Okay, and now his foot needs to land before he strikes. So let's put it at frame 3. Okay, and then also we want him to actually hold his openness, his open chest. We want him to hold his open chest a little bit longer, I think. And we can exaggerate it a little bit. And we can open his pelvic bone and open this like this. See that? See now how he's opening up? We can lean his foot. We can ground his foot a little bit deeper, right? So this way when he gets there, it feels like he's really pushing off. What we don't want to do, we don't want to limit his forward motion. Let's do that. So I think his foot might be better off moving at frame 2. There. All right. And, you know, most of the time when you throw a punch like in Kung Fu or Karate, you pull your fist into your waist. It's called chambering. But in here, in a boxer situation, you keep that hand right up against your head. Keep it right there. That's technique. It's explosive technique because you need to be able to come back and come back around. Launch that left back out, okay? So this is looking pretty solid, I think. I'm going to hold his foot back 1 frame. Now, this stance feels off balance. We're going to fix that. I'm going to get him on his toes. So maybe he's grounded too much. Maybe something like this. All right, and let's see what his foot looks like over here. Set that key. I was right. Three is the money number. Okay. Now, when you lock his foot down like this, his contact pose needs to make sure that continuity is on for every single bone. So, what is continuity? So let's undo that for a minute. I'm going to do a demonstration of what happens inside of a video game engine. So if I come over here and I make frame, like all of this has a keyframe on it right now at frame 5. I copied everything over to frame 10. Now if I go back and forth, you see how much wiggle room is in here? That's because what the program is doing is it's taking the velocity of moving, the momentum of moving forward, and it's trying to apply it to the curves during this section of the timeline. Okay, we can't have this. It will not go well with the user if that all is sloppy like this. So we've got to visually make it appealing. And so one of the things that I like to do, this is my style. It has nothing to do with whether this is a right or wrong technique. This is what makes me think it looks cool. This is like a Yahweh game style. I stick all this continuity and stick it straight to 0. All right. A lot of companies will take this continuity and they'll do it like at 8 or maybe at 12, and it's taking the springiness out of all of this. So I get the pelvic bone. So you notice I took every one bone from each limb. So one leg bone, one left leg bone, one spine bone, one arm bone. Select the opposite, the other arm bone, and then the head, and the pelvis. Okay. By just selecting one bone each and then opening up TCB and putting continuity of 0 on everything. And if I copy this whole thing over to frame 10, look what happens. All that springiness went away. It's not moving anymore. And now I can actually return without any weirdness happening. Okay, so we're going to actually do a little bit of a follow through at frame 12. So we're going to copy everything over. We're going to push forward to get some super exaggeration out of his attack. Okay. We're also going to extend this. Okay. We're going to buckle his head lower. We're going to take his spine and crumple his spine a little bit. So we're putting all of that force into that punch. So let's just check where it was previous. Let's put it up a little higher. See how we're moving all that energy into the punch? Okay, just like that. And then we have to do an additional follow through around frame 13. So let's just copy this, put this over in 13, okay? And we're gonna pull this arm this way. Rotate it around, couple this like this, collapse the spine just a little bit more, duck the head a little bit more, and then drop the body mass. This is called follow through, okay? And also going to twist this rotation down and go that way just a little bit. So now here to here, here to here. And then you see, you can definitely tell in the front view. Oh, and you know what I never did at the contact frame? I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but I actually never did it. And we have to clench his fist tighter. Now, will the player ever see this? They might if they're looking for it, but this is like customer satisfaction guaranteed kind of thing for me. Like, for sure, I know that I did it. So let's just break that down a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to copy this into the clipboard. Copy. So I'm going to do hand underscore fist underscore clench. Okay, so actually if I go back to idle and I grab this same fist, I can do hand, fist, idle, or relaxed. Okay, so idle's fine. So this way when he makes contact, that fist becomes a rock. All right, just copy this over. Copy this over. Actually, what we'll do is we'll just paste it. We'll paste it over here. Bend that down this way. Maybe couple it back. So let's see what this looks like. And we'll move the last frame to like 18, all right? Give him some time to recover. Oh, am I at double speed? Okay, let's go single speed. Oh, and then we got to fix his feet. When that return, we're going back home. So let's just leave his feet locked down, right? Because we're transferring balance back to the first frame. So what happens if I do that? See, it's hyperextended, so we'll just leave it at 15, and then we'll arrive faster. That's it. So I got some keyframes. See how between 18 and 20 his leg is moving? That means there's some keyframes on the other side of this. I got to go find. See, there it is. Just grab everything, just delete it out. And like I said, like frame 20, right? And there we go. So if I hit play, his feet look good, his fist looks good. Now, I've also want to run this by you as well. So I'm going to save this because I'm pretty happy with it. When you play Street Fighter, when you play other games, when you press the attack button and that fist comes out and it returns back in, it's very smooth. You'll notice that when I throw my fist, there's a pause. And the reason why that pause is there is that there's a tag that gets assigned inside the video game engine, basically on this contact frame. And that tag needs to have a script on it that basically says, hold for 5 frames. And what it'll do is it'll create an illusion of contact, of friction. So there are 12 principles of animation according to Disney. Vince has 2 more. Vince and Michael has 2 more. I have weight-based friction, and I have contact-based friction. Friction's friction, right? But it's just depending on what you're doing. So when you're pushing a stone, you've got to have a resistance that stone is going to push back against you, okay? Now, weight distribution is a principle of animation, but when you're dealing with friction, it's a different type of weight. And as a matter of fact, when you're punching through someone, you're punching and moving them. You're moving their body, or you're pushing their organs backwards, or there's something happening within the person that's causing resistance. And so, yes, weight has to do with what kind of weight we're dealing with, friction resistance. All right. So I create this fifth from 5 to 10. There's a resistance that's happening. That needs to happen. So if I actually delete all this out and I just focus on frame 5, this is what it's really going to look like. And to me, it doesn't feel right. Like, it's just like, okay, you're just shadow boxing or whatever, and that's okay. And his foot's skipping a step here. Where's it skipping at? Right there. Let's make sure the continuity's on 0 here. And it is. There we go. That's better. Now I could take this frame and move it up a little bit and create some distance between his boot and the ground, and that'll help a little bit. I think it'll sell it a little bit more, and then when he picks his foot up to return home, I can do the same thing. Just lift his foot up a little bit. Okay. I'll sell it a little bit more. That's what we're going to do for our first punch. Now, for a jab, honest to God, it's pretty heavy, right? So this looks like this is a straight rather than a jab. But the principle is all here. The principle is the same. So we're going to lead off with this hand. Now, I can always create another jab later, okay? But what I want to move on to next in the next discussion is more of a philosophy of animation, creating animation. One of the things you guys need to take consideration when you animate is that you have to know what game you're animating for. There's a huge difference between creating a beat 'em up or a button masher game versus something like Tekken or Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. Now, what do I mean by that? So, the majority of animations that happen in a Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat situation, it's based on frame linking. So there is a typical transition frame that happens between every attack. And so what you end up doing is you create this like 3-frame pose that's going to transition. So if I'm like leaving this fist and I'm returning, like this transition point, this frame is so important because I could transition and come here, or I could do a mule kick, or I could go back, or I could do a headbutt. So you've got to be able to have that transition frame to connect one animation to another. That's in a Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, or Tekken situation. If you're dealing with a beat 'em up or a button mashing situation, you really don't have to go that technical. You really don't have to. I mean, by the way, when I say Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, it includes wrestling games too. Them wrestling fans, that happens. But in a beat 'em up situation or a button masher situation, you can just follow through with one attack to another. And it's always best that whatever attack you're using, you should always have a return to idle pose. Because what if the player doesn't actually press the next button and you let go? And then all of a sudden it just snaps back to idle. It looks weird. So you should always, for every attack that you have, you need to be able to transition to the next attack, but you also need to transition back to idle. So that's why you'll see here, actually I'm transitioning back to idle at the end of this punch. Now let's say I want to throw the left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab everything and I'm going to find his contact pose. And what I'm going to do is so quickly right here, I'm ending at frame 13. Now I'm also going to, and I didn't tell you guys this before, but a frame 13, which is the first frame and the last frame, I always do continuity at 0. Always, 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 always. I put all my continuity, I reset it all back to 0 when I'm done. So this way when I go into the next animation, there will be no wiggly areas. And then also you got to watch your continuity on your root bone. Your root bone has 3 separate tracks. It has horizontal, it has vertical, and it has rotation. You got to check it on all of them. And I didn't even check that on frame 5 or 10 when I was showing you guys that pause animation. All right, that's the head, and then we got to check the pelvis. All right, and that's the end of our Genji soundtrack, I think. And like another minute, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back to frame 5. Oh, I did it. Oh, yay. Go me. Okay. So as a rule of thumb, whatever animation I do, I always end up on the 5th frame, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, etc. I just try to make everything in completion at 5. So this way, when I start my next animation, I'm actually going to start, in this case, at frame 20. Okay? So if I, scroll in, I'm going to add some more time. So we still had this one at 20 frames, so I'm going to do 40. All right? So right here, 15 to 0, or 15 to 20, nothing's happening. I literally have seconds left, so I'm just going to go ahead and change the soundtrack real quick. All right, let's put on something a little bit more fun. Ooh, oh, that's too short. I just want to get something and go. How about we do this exotic classic transmix? Let's see what this is. That'll work. Okay, so what I'm going to do at frame 20, even though I'm starting here, I'm actually going to, with my start pose, I'm actually going to start at frame 5. Right? Because we have this follow through. Technically, I could start here at 8. So let's make sure I got a keyframe on all these poses. So I'm just going to hit the key button. There's no continuity worries over here. I don't need that. So I'm going to put it right over here to frame 20. So he's starting here. This is my starting animation pose. So when I export my animation, I'm going to start at 21. This 20 is just a breaker for me. It's just a signifier to tell me, hey, I got another animation coming. So I'm going to start here. Now, what am I going to do here? What do I want? Do I want to come back even though he's all the way over here? Do I want to take his left leg, the green one, or I'm sorry, his right leg, and do a crescent roundhouse kick into that momentum? Do I want to throw an uppercut with that blue arm? Let's give that a shot. Let's see how that comes out. So we're going to move over. We're going to go 1. So this is frame 1, or 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we made contact on the 5th frame before. Now we're going to make it on the 6th frame here. This is going to be what we're going to consider a medium. I'm going to go ahead and lift up. We need to, this is a contact frame, so an uppercut, you actually have to torque the toe in, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and torque it in like this. And I know this is going to kind of look weird here, but this is all hip, all uppercuts or hooks come from the hip. All right, so let's go ahead and grab this. Whoops. Like that. Let's rotate his foot this way. Page down. Just rotate his toes over that way. This is a good pose here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab his idle and just copy it over here. just to kind of give myself some room again. I'm going to tuck his head into his arm, and I'm going to abrasively. Now, I'm not talking about an uppercut like Ryu's, okay? That's not the kind of uppercut I'm talking about, but I am talking about a jawbreaker uppercut. So let's page up, connect with underneath the jaw here, something like that. Hit this, left. Now, seeing as like in the previous animation, right? I took some time and I tried to put his fist like right up against his head when I threw the other punch. So I'm going to take his clavicle. Oh, I got to do the other select opposite. We're going to grab on frame 5. We're going to grab this. We're going to copy this. Copy. Paste opposite. Okay, and we're going to put this up against his head. All right, we got to line his spine up. Now he might be too low, of course. Whoops, let's go ahead and unlock his hand here. Something like this. So we can see a transition happening. See how he's torquing his body? All right. This is a good contact pose. Let's bicep this a little bit. Maybe something like this. His hand looks really good. Let's make sure he's got a clinch on his fist. All right. So I have hand clinch. Paste opposite. Perfect. Okay. We're gonna clinch his fist over by his head too. We're gonna lean his head into his shoulder a little bit more. Get his elbow off of his chest. Page it up. Get his, there we go, something like that. We can always, break his fist a little bit. There we go. Something like this. And then, of course, we can lower this a little bit because this is where all his power is going to come from, believe it or not. We got to push off, and then we got to lean his ankle into his body. All right. So if I go left view, and straighten this out. There we go. Sweet. All right. So we're going to do a little transition animation in here, but I do want to do some follow through. So let's make sure that we have continuity on 0 on everything. All right. So this is our contact frame. That's important. What is his pelvis doing? His pelvis is leaning into his hip like this. It's actually kind of cool. So we're going to leave that alone, but we do need to set a keyframe on it. Okay. Let's check this. Check his spine. Now we can also twist his spine into the punch a bit. Do something like that. We've got some major follow through happening over here. Now I know it's early in a combination, like when you're actually like in the middle of a beat 'em up game, you don't throw a straight right off the first punch and then go right into an uppercut. Like I get that, but it just kind of look cool. So an uppercut's kind of a finisher. I can always put 2 animations at the front of this, do a couple jabs or something. Okay, so let's go into frame 29. Let's just launch this sucker. He's got to push off. Let's get him up in the air. So the question is like, which leg is he actually jumping off of? Does he jump off of his front leg? So if I'm going up, no, it's jumping off of his back leg. I know I said I wasn't going to do a Ryu uppercut, but I don't know why my brain just kind of went there all of a sudden. I don't really care. Let's just go with it. Let's just go with it. We'll chamber this one. You know, I know boxers don't do this anyways, but cool factor, right? So let's see before and after. And then we're also going to raise his fist and push it over that way a little bit. We'll check his clavicle, make sure it's going straight. Now his fist is over here on this grid line, right? And then when I follow through, it's now over here. No problem, guys. We're just moving forward. So we gotta unlock his leg here. See that? You know, honestly, guys, this is where good reference comes in, too. This is just something I'm throwing off the top of my head. He does feel a little off balance, but I don't care. I'm having too much fun. All right. So let's rewind this a little bit. Okay, so let's transition. Now, what are we doing from here? How are we transitioning from this attack to this one? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna chamber his whole body. We're going to get real low. He's got to basically reframe himself. So I'm going to take his guard pose and make sure that he goes guard for everything here. Okay. And get low. So this way it looks like he's swinging. See that? And yeah, so he's already over this way. Now he's swinging back. Let's rotate this down, actually swing him back this way. It's cool factor, guys. So from the front view, he's not stretched out enough, right? So let's stretch him out. Let's bring this leg back and up. Let's expand his spine backwards a bit. Let's chamber that elbow in. Reach for the sky. Trying to run his leg a little bit parallel to his arm. All right, let's try and see what happens there. Just get him up off the ground some more. Not too much though. We're gonna let the programmer deal with that. See, now we have to understand something, that when we launch something like this, like when we started this character is supposed to be in a hitbox. So we need to make sure he's framed up maybe somewhere around here and he doesn't leave this area. So when he's throwing a punch, like he's pretty far out, but you know, a punch is a punch. He's got to go out. Come up. See, he's actually not doing too bad. Let's go ahead and collapse that down. All right. Now the vertical motion has got to be done by the programmer. If I actually move him up how I'd like to have him move up, we're gonna get what's known as a double transform. Whoops, I didn't collapse that down. We're gonna and that means that I'm moving it and he's moving it, so it's double transform. Okay, seeing as this is the contact frame here, continuity 0, and then what we're going to do here, we're going to move it over 2, and we're going to go ahead and, this is not a medium, guys, this is like a full-on heavy, so we're just going to move this all one frame over to the right, alright, and we're just going to copy this at frame 33, we're going to throw some follow-through in here. Let's do this. So let's actually go ahead and key this here, and then we'll pull this knee down just a little so that we can actually spring and compress a bit. And then we'll go ahead and rotate his character around. And then he'll need a landing pose and then a back to idle pose. Let's go ahead and copy this to 0. We're going to copy it 36. Okay, and we're actually going to keep the momentum going around in the circle here. So if we go grab the rotation tool, oops, rotate him around like this. And then we'll switch legs. How about we do that? Alright, we'll grab the pelvis too, and we'll copy, paste opposite, and we don't need that anymore, so we're just going to trash that from the front view. Now what's going to happen? See that? Just going to go ahead and reset the elbow a little bit. Paste or select opposite. And bring this up as well. I'm going to reset his spine and his neck and his head. How do I do that? How do I reset? So if I come over here, I should have default poses in my list. Okay, and I'm actually going to come over here just to show you guys why I use it. There's my head, and then where's my spine. So because sometimes I get too carried away with stuff and I want to reset everything. See, just like that. That's a little better. All right. Page down. And we're going to open up his hands. Now we should have in his action poses, there should be a hand. There it is, hand relaxed. So let's just go ahead and throw that in there. All right, left view. All right. Just do a whole bunch of resetting here. No big deal. Let's just reset his pelvis. Actually, I don't know if we need to, but we'll do it anyways. We'll just go ahead and go for it. Default poses. Let's find his pelvis. Paste. There we go. And then we'll go back to action. So we're basically what we're doing is we're creating a landing pose. Let's check it. So I'm going to increase this to maybe frame 60. Okay, so it gives me a little like a little more than a little less than a second worth of time to figure out what's happening. Okay, so what needs to happen? See, I'm glad I did that. So we're going to go ahead and grab frame 40 and duplicate it. We're going to copy it to frame 45. And on this frame, we're going to actually do a squash pose. So we'll compress him, make him feel like he landed. Okay. Not too terribly much. So maybe something like that. That might be enough. See? Now what we need to do is we need to adjust our timing. Notice I have him spinning backwards. I have him spinning backwards, like to go land back on his axis. And over here, I'm going to extend his arm. There's a hook. Bend this. See if anybody's asking questions. Oh, okay. I'm going to lower his. Oh no, that's a contact frame, so that's okay. Let's just lower it here a little bit longer. It's more explosive. So his foot's going through the ground here, which means we can get him off the ground a little higher, I think. Just put this foot right there. that foot there. Just hyperextend him a little bit more. Here we got 2 attacks now, guys. So now, what would this look like if we actually chained this up, right? Because, and again, let's recap a little bit. So this punch starts and ends. This punch starts from here and ends, okay? And the reason why it's going to start here is that it's actually going to connect to that punch. So what we're going to do, we'll go ahead and we'll extend the timeline. I'm going to save this. I'm going to extend the timeline to 90. Okay, so we're going to give it an additional second here. And I'm going to copy everything to this frame, frame 8, 0 to 8. All right, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to move it over here to frame 50. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at frame 21. And I'm going to copy everything to frame 40. And I'm going to copy it right on top of that other frame. And this is what it's actually going to look like. So we're going to start at frame 50 and stop at 90. So this way you can see the combo of how it's intended to look in the game. See that? See how smooth that is? Oh, and you know what? I didn't even copy in my return to idle pose. That. Let's just start at frame 50. Oh, did I not do my continuity? Tisk, tisk, tisk. Or did I? Nah, see, I sure did. Let's check the other side. Pelvic bone. Whoops. All right, let's try that again. Let's copy this to frame 50. There. Now it's all should be nice and smooth. See that? The flow is awesome. So now what it's going to look like if we tweak it a little bit more and put some of my own flair in there and put some of that friction in here to communicate to the programmer, it needs to look like this. Right, so let's come over here to frame 8. Let's just move this over 5 frames, and how will we know? So if we look down here in the bottom left-hand corner, we can count the frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that was 6. So there's our 5th frame. We're just going to copy this. 1, 2, 3. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wrong one. Wrong one. It's not the contact pose. That's our contact pose. So we're going to copy all this. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not copy, but copy this frame and move those others. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now there's that, and then we want that uppercut frame, so we're going to connect here. We're going to add 6 frames here. 6 frame hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Apparently I missed my continuity on this guy. Good. So what needs to happen here on this frame, we need to drop this like that and then crumple his hand so it looks like it's going towards the target. See that? It makes a lot of difference. All right, and I think what we're gonna do, he goes up fast and he'll come down slow. So right here, we're gonna stretch this out 5 frames. So let's add a little bit more. Now, here's something I haven't showed you guys yet. Now, I haven't used it at all in the last few videos. I've been refraining so I can actually show you. If you right click on the timeline, you can go to configure and do show selection range. And when you do that, it'll actually give you this slider. So you can actually do this. You can expand your time. So let's just go ahead and come over here, put some evenly spaced frames and see what happens there. Oh, come on. I scaled all my frames, but I didn't have everything selected. Oh, I'm so tired. Let's select everything. Just move all of this like this. Something like that. Let's try that. There we go. I mean, it's not bad for a little bit for a little bit of time's work, you know. Like, I haven't even been working on this an hour yet. So, by the way, for those of you who are in my class, I'm not expecting you to do all this. All right, I'm just trying to show you guys some examples of what we can do. And by the way, this hand is doing a funky whirlwind here. So let's just try to keep this all nice and straight, maybe. Let's just delete that frame. Let's just see how that turns out. There we go. This is a little bit smoother. And so, by the way, I feel like it's not explosive enough. So, you know, when the character connects, he actually takes 2 frames to launch straight up. So I'm just going to take that out. I'm going to go one frame launch. That'll probably change a little bit. Yeah, much better. Pow. Pow. Psh, psh. Pretty happy with that. I mean, that's a lot of little stuff. Totally shippable. So, file save as, because I actually did two attacks in here. Okay, so we have attack 1. Now we have attack 2. And that's it for that, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off for this video. If you have any other animation questions, please hit me up. You can hit me up at Michael, it's Michael at yahwehgames.com. If you're looking for some mentorship for animation or for really much anything regarding the video game industry, including video game business, my phone number is 386-341-4985. It's a Florida number, and I love it. I love my number. What else? For those of you who are looking for character art and animation, we have character art and animation services. We've been doing this for quite a while. Actually, Yahweh Games has been doing this for a year, but I've been doing this for 18. So we're looking to hook up with some great people, some people with some integrity, want to make some awesome games, want to have some fun, get some laughs, and make people smile, you know. Anyways, oh, I just saw his hand pop up. All funky. There it is. Everybody was probably like, hey, what about that arm? Oh my god, it looks so bad. So let's just copy this over like this. Just go over like that. That'll be a little better. Better transition. I can't believe I didn't see that before. That's so funny. But at least I caught it. That's the point, right? Totally shippable. Yeah, baby, that's much better. I can see the difference. All right, so in the next animation, what we're going to do is we're going to make him get hit. So this way, the programmer can take the same character, make him blue, and copy him and make him red, and you can have one character hit the other character. All right, Shalom, guys.